Assalamu alaikum viewers, this is Sarfraz Karni from Pegham-e-Haqq. Today we are joined by brother Maverick X from UK. Assalamu alaikum brother, how are you?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa
Assalamu
barakatuh.
alaikum.
And Hina
How are
and
you
Bobby.
guys?
Thanks for
I'm good.
joining us, our show today. Brother Maverick, we are going to talk about very important issue we have about Siam in Quran. And I have seen some of your lectures and videos. Before we go to that important topic, I want you to please share your journey coming to Quran with our viewers. Thank you.
Well, my journey, my journey is slightly tricky because I've always been a quote unquote Quran only without knowing such a thing existed. And the reason I'm saying that is basically I was first introduced to the Quran as a child. I did not go through any other teachings before I was introduced to the Quran. So when I was introduced to the Quran, I was told that this is allegedly the word of God brought to us by an individual who claimed to be the messenger of God. Now, in order for me to ascertain the validity of that claim, all I can do is read the actual book.
Right.
So to cut the long story short, I've read the Quran numerous times and I have been utterly convinced by it.
MashaAllah.
So since I've been utterly convinced by the Quran, as I grew older, I was introduced to something called Hadiths.
Hmm.
Now, the way it was introduced to me was that it was merely history.
Right.
Now, there's not really much argument that can be had over history because history is potentially true, potentially false. There is no way of verifying it. It is merely the narrative of some.
That is
Hmm.
true.
And again, it has no bearing on the message. So therefore, I didn't have an issue with it. So I went on with my life, and as I got older, quite recently, actually, to be honest with you, I was introduced to the notion that it is supposed to be taken as some form of revelation. So I
Hmm.
didn't even know such a thing existed. So when I was when I was told that it is to be taken as some form of revelation, I was taken aback because that is not what the Quran says. On the contrary, the Quran says the very opposite. In fact, the Quran says that it's fully detailed, complete, etc.
Right.
I was taken aback by that. I was also taken aback by this notion of scholars. I was really taken aback by that. And what really surprised me was how normal people took the notion of scholars in Islam. Because what I remember very clearly, which was one of the biggest fears that I had, was that the Quran constantly talked about people simply just following the claims of people without verifying it themselves.
Right.
As a matter of fact, on Judgment Day, the people's argument will be that we just followed so and so, we just followed our leaders.
Right.
And then the leaders will disown them and say, hey, you made your own choices.
Right.
The third thing I remember is that the Jews and the Christians, the people that literally made them go astray, were the people who classified themselves as scholars and priests, etc. So the Quran never spoke about this idea of men exalting themselves as some sort of representatives of the deen, other than the prophets and the messengers, that is, in a good light.
Right.
So I was like, how, who, who made these scholars? And what makes you think you can trust these guys? So I was really, really surprised because it was as though everything the Quran that the Quran taught me, I'm now being taught something that's almost contrary to what the Quran teaches. So I was confused.
Hmm.
Um, To cut the long story short, I gave it the benefit of the doubt. I started asking a few questions. And when I started asking a few questions, what I realized were people would do what the Quran says that the Jewish rabbis and the Christian priests used to do, which is simply take words out of its context. Chapter 4:46, for example, and I can give you a few other verses that says that. So I noticed that my very own brothers, Muslims, would do the exact same thing that the Quran accused the Jews and the Christians of doing, which is taking words out of its context. Not only would they take words out of its context, I realized that they would basically cut a verse, not only in half, but make a verse into a third. For instance, chapter 59:7, when they say, take what the messenger gives you and abstain what he tells you to abstain from. That's maybe even less than a third of the actual verse. So when you read the verse, the obviously the meaning is entirely different. So when you read the verse 59:7, for instance,
Right.
it's talking about war booty.
Right.
But when you just say take what the messenger gives you and abstain what he tells you to abstain from, then they make it out to look like that has something to do with hadiths.
Right.
Do you see how it changes when you read the verse?
Hmm.
So I would notice they would do that with 59:7, 16:44, and 4:59. Those were their favorite verses,
Right.
as well as a few others. But each and every single verse that they claimed is referring to the hadiths or the sunnah or anything of the sort. When you read the verses before and you read the verses after and you get the context, it is talking about something completely different than what they say. So again, they reminded me of what the verse says in the Quran, where Allah says they take words out of his context.
Right.
So in a nutshell, after a while of investigating and conversing with people and etc., what I realized is that all of it, literally every single argument, every single one, bar none, comes down to the fact that they're taking words out of context. That's all it is. There is no mental gymnastics involved. There is nothing sophisticated. Every single argument falls flat on its face the moment you read the context. Everyone.
Right.
So eventually it got down to how are you going to pray? How are you going to pray? How are you going to fast? How are you going to do the pilgrimage? The rituals just became a huge stumbling block for most people. So what I realized is that as well as coming across, I must admit, I did come across A.D. Safar's book. I did come across the book, and when I read the book, I was shocked, I was overwhelmed, but I wasn't too surprised either, because I've always understood the theme of the Quran to not be concerned about worship per se, but rather serve. That's something that can be understood from the Quran.
Right.
I mean, no community was destroyed because of rituals.
Exactly.
Rituals was never the problem.
That is correct. Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
The problem was because they used to make lies about God. They would associate partners with God. They would say God and so-and-so, God and so-and-so.
Right.
And then with saying God and so-and-so, they would also come up with random prohibitions and stuff like that and attribute it to God.
Right.
So that was the issue. The issue was always lies and the false prohibitions that they would attribute to God. Never about rituals. So I understood from the theme that, you know what, A.D. Safar might have a point. So what I did was I applied a hermeneutics. So because there seems to be all of this hoo-ha about particular words, What I do know for a fact is that words are determined by the context and not the other way around.
Right.
A word, irregardless of any language that we are speaking, a word cannot be divorced from the context that it's in. If a word is divorced from the context that it's in, we will not be able to communicate. It's like
Right.
right now,
Correct. Yes.
it's like right now there's a particular context to what we are discussing. If
Right.
I threw in randomly Arsenal beat Man City, makes no sense to our
Right.
discussion.
That is correct.
It's out of context.
Right.
Hmm.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes. Very good point. Yes.
So what I did was I took all of these words in every single context that they are in the Quran. And what I did was simply read the context that they are in. And when you read the context that they are in, the word that fits in there, you just know automatically. It's not difficult.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good information about your introduction.
Yeah.
So I want you to please now share your research about this is important concept about Siam and Saum and fasting. What research you have done and what you have learned from Quran by just reading the Quran. What is your understanding? Can you share it with our viewers?
Right. What I've learned is that the Quran is an extremely consistent book.
Right.
It explains itself.
No doubt.
So for instance, this particular word now, Siyam. What I've done is I've looked at every single occurrence in the Quran where this word appears. So to give you every single verse, if you wish, one moment.
Let's start with the first ayat verse it came in. So we can take the reference from there.
Okay, cool. So Siam is introduced to the primary audience, and always remember when reading the Quran, there are two audiences. There is the audience that are present with the messenger, and then there is us.
Right.
Always bear that in mind. So with that said, the first time that the primary audience was introduced to this concept of Siyam is found in chapter 2, 183. So in chapter 2, 183, they are told, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. O you who believe. Now notice what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave Siam untranslated and get you guys to focus on the context, and it will make itself clear.
Sure.
So, O you who believe, Siyam is decreed for you as it was decreed before you, that you may attain taqwa, tattaqun.
Right.
So here we are told that Siyam is decreed for us as it was decreed for those before us.
Right.
So who was it who was it decreed to before us? That would be the people who received the book before us.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So whatever this Siyam that we are going to undergo, it's something that the people of the book have also undergone.
Right.
It's nothing new. So with that said, and then Allah tells us the purpose of said Siyam. So He says, so that you may attain tattaqun.
Right.
So now we have that Siyam is something that the people of the book have undergone, and we now also have the purpose of Siyam. So we have to be consistent with those two things now.
Right.
Now since we are told, remember, we are told that the purpose of Siyam is so that we may attain Taqwa. So with that said, we can say Siyam is a process and taqwa is the goal.
Hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
Siyam process, taqwa goal.
It's a goal, right?
Any disagreements? Do we have any
No,
misunderstandings
no,
there?
it's
No,
so
no.
clear.
It's very clear. Yeah.
Cool. So we can continue reading the verses, or we can quickly ask ourselves, how do we attain this goal? Remember that. How do we attain this goal? Because Siam is a process,
Hmm.
Taqwa is the goal.
Right.
How do we attain this goal is the question.
Right.
Now, because we don't have much time, in summary, you will find that throughout the Quran, we are told that it's through the Quran and the adherence of the teachings of the Quran that we attain this goal.
Right.
Yes.
That's what the Quran teaches us.
Right.
So Siyam cannot be different than the Quran, considering that, unless there are two different kinds of taqwa. A taqwa that you attain with the Quran and a taqwa that you attain with Siyam. Do you see
Right.
the problem there?
Good point.
Very
Yes.
good point. Yeah.
Okay. So with that said, we're going to continue reading this context. So we'll go to 184. Specific days, if one is ill or traveling, an equal number of other days may be substituted. Those who can Siyam, but with great difficulty, may substitute feeding one poor person for each day of breaking the Siyam. Now, let me go to word for word. I don't trust these translations. One moment. There was among you on a journey. Yeah, then a prescribed number of other days, and those who are able but find it extremely difficult, an expiation of feeding a poor person. And whoever volunteered, see, I knew that translation was fake. And whoever volunteered good, then it is better for him. And that you Siyam is better for you if you only knew. So, 184. From the beginning, we are told that this Siyam, this process, is for specific number of days. Yeah?
That is
Mhm.
This process is for a specific number of days. It's not forever. It's for a period.
Yeah, Yami Madudat. Yes.
Yeah. And then we are told, whoever among you is ill or on a journey. Whoever among you is ill or on a journey, then a prescribed number of other days. So whoever is ill or on a journey cannot do this Siyam because they are ill or on a journey. So they're not present.
right.
If you're ill, are you present? If you are ill,
you're not present.
yeah, if you are ill, are you present?
No,
Present-
in certain occasion, you won't be able to go there. Like, you know, if
Exactly,
you
because
are,
you're ill.
So you're
Yeah,
talking
you
about
are
like
ill.
an occasion or something going on, that event or whatever.
Yes.
Well, now I'm going to show you the other one as well and show you the similarity.
Hmm.
Or on a journey. If you're on a journey, clearly you're not present, right? Because you're on a
Yes.
journey.
That is
Yeah.
correct. You're traveling. You're not there.
Exactly. So God says you get to make up the days that you've missed. You
Hmm.
get to make them up. Do you see it?
That is right.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
That's clear.
All right. So, and then we're told whoever can do it but find it difficult, they get an expiation of feeding a poor person. So they can do the Siyam, but it's difficult.
Right.
Then they get excused if they feed a poor person.
That is right.
But there's a but here. And then it says, feed a poor person, and whatever extra that you do is good for you. Yeah? Whatever extra that you do is good for you.
Hmm.
And then it says, however, that you Siyam is better for you if you only knew.
Right.
Hmm.
So if it's difficult, basically, if you don't have time or whatever to hold back and basically, if you don't have time, I don't want to jump ahead before we go to the next verse. If you don't have time, if it's difficult, then you get an expiation of feeding a poor person. However, God says, Siyam is better for you. So
Right.
the purpose of Siyam is to get you to feed poor people and to do good, but it is better for you to do Siyam so you actually learn the purpose and everything. Do you see what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Hmm.
All right. So with that said, we go to the next verse.
So Siam is primary, and feeding the poor is the secondary thing. If you could.
There you go. So Siyam is primary, feeding the poor is the goal again.
Oh yeah.
Because what is the goal of faith? The goal of faith, you can't have faith if it doesn't result in action.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I mean? The action of faith is the good that you do. So it's the goal, basically. Faith, goal is the good deed.
All right.
Now, so 185, the next verse, clarifies what Siyam is. So now we know that this is Siyam is a process. We know that this process is for a period of time. We know that the purpose of this process is to reach Taqwa, which is the goal. And we know that those who are sick or on a journey, they get to make up other days to do this process. Are you guys with me so far?
Right.
Okay. So we know what the process is. We know what the goal is. Now we're going to know what is used for the process to achieve the goal.
Right.
Do you see my point there?
Right.
Yes.
So Siyam is a process, Taqwa is a goal. Now the question is, what is the tool that connects the two? Yeah?
That is right.
Okay, so now we're going to get the tool. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. In the new moon of Ramadan is that in which the Quran was revealed. So now what we have is a phenomena.
Right.
The very definition of a phenomena. Because we have an event and we have something huge happening, namely the coming down of the very word of God.
Right.
Are you guys with me so far?
So you said Shahru means new moon?
Shahru means new moon.
Okay.
It's a specific period.
Okay.
Because let me give you the alternative, Hina. The alternative, if you say a month, then the whole Quran came down within that month.
No, that's not possible.
But that's what it would have to be if you say a month. Because you're saying in the month of Ramadan is that in which the Quran was revealed. So there's no avoiding the fact that the Quran must be revealed entirely in that month.
Or it can be like a new day.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's a new day. And furthermore, it's the very definition of a new day or a new dawn. Because if you think about it, if the Quran is being revealed, how much more of a new day can it get than that?
Right.
You see what I mean?
Right.
Right. So now we're told about an extraordinary event, namely the revealing of the Quran. And then we're going to be told what this Quran is. So we're told, Hudan linnas wa bayyinatin min al-hudan wal furqan. So we're told a guidance for the people and clear proofs of guidance and the criterion. Yes. So now we're told what this Quran is. So we're told about a phenomena, and then we're told what this phenomena is now. So notice we have process, goal, phenomena, and what this phenomena is.
Right.
It's a guidance for people.
Yes. Notice process, goal, phenomena, and what this phenomena is. And then now we're going to be told what to do with this phenomena. So we're being told everything. Watch this. So Allah says, whoever, so let me give the Arabic first. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْهُ. So whoever witnesses this new moon shall Siyam. So now God clearly tells us whoever witnesses this event shall do the process.
Okay.
Right.
Here
See that?
again, the shahr word came again, like
Yes.
the new moon.
Yes. So do you witness a month or do you witness an event?
It's an event.
An event.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So notice what happened here. So now we're told whoever witnessed this event shall Siam therein. So whoever witnessed this event shall undergo the process. Remember, Siam was a process to reach a goal. So now
Yes.
we are told how to reach that goal, because whoever witnesses this event shall do the process, basically, shall Siam.
So you're saying that that event is that the only one-time event when it
There
happened?
is no avoiding that. The Quran started to come down at a particular moment in time.
Okay.
And there was an audience at that particular moment in time. And that audience, upon the receipt of the Quran, they would have to undergo a process with
Alright.
with said Quran. And the purpose of said Quran has to be taqwa. How do we avoid all of that?
So,
Yes.
for example, let it make it clear.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, the event happened in 2001 or 2002. A specific time, it's a specific month it happened. So this verse is applied to that event. Those people who were present at that time. That's what you're saying.
Yes, it's
There is.
okay. Sir.
Go ahead, you know.
Yes, it's about the time period when the Quran was revealed. So it's so clear, I think.
So
Yeah.
that is the specific time there.
Yes.
This verse.
I mean, what we can do is we can remove the word Ramadan and we can remove the word Quran. Put in anything there, and there is no avoiding that it is a specific time. There's no escaping. So let's say on Saturday. So where it says in the month, let's say, in the month, let's say on Saturday. On Saturday, on Saturday, Hina took her COVID test.
Okay.
What's the difference? Does that mean she does it every day? Does that mean continue doing it? It's just something that happened at a particular time in history.
That's true.
In the month of Ramadan is that in which the Quran was revealed. I mean, can we escape the fact that the Quran was revealed at a particular time in history? Is there any avoiding that?
We cannot avoid that now.
Well, that's precisely what it's talking about. We can't say this verse is referring to a particular time when the Quran was revealed, yet it is addressing people that they should celebrate something for all times.
Yeah,
That's not where we get from here.
Right. The importance of that event. That is clear.
The importance is that event and the purpose of said event.
Right.
So the purpose of said event is the process, namely Siam, and the process is with the Quran because of the event, and the goal is taqwa. Process to goal. So we have process as Siam in 2183, and we have the tool in 2185, namely the Quran, and we have the goal in 2183, namely taqwa.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, even if we put this argument of Siam aside, even if we put that aside, can anyone argue that reading the Quran and doing your best to understand the Quran is a process that will, if God wills and you sincerely want to, that will lead to taqwa? Is there any avoiding that?
No, it's so, like it's clear. Yeah.
Does the Quran lead to taqwa?
And another ayat, like 2177,
Yeah.
there is also the criteria how to attain taqwa.
Right.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, my favorite one is actually 6:153.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we go to 6:153, and then I'll give you another one that sort of basically closes this entire argument.
Okay.
So 6:153. This is my path, a straight one. You shall follow it and do not follow any other paths. Notice when it says you shall follow it is single, and when it says do not follow any other paths is plural.
Right.
Notice that.
Mhm.
And then it says, lest they divert you from his path. These are his commandments to you. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ.
Right. Very good
Yeah,
point.
the commandments are literally what gives you the tattaqun, following the commandments.
Only
And-
his
and-
commandment, right?
Yeah, and another one that really closes this entire argument is chapter 6:51. You guys got it?
Yes, we got
So
it.
it says, and preach with this, the Quran, yeah? Preach with this to whoever reverences the summoning before their Lord. They have none beside him as a Lord and Master, nor an intercessor,
Right.
that they may attain yattaqun.
Right.
You see that?
My
So
translation
Literally,
says
through preaching
don't
this Quran is how one attains taqwa.
Right. It's very clear.
Literally says that. So what we're gonna have to have now is we're gonna have to have two different kinds of taqwa. A taqwa that one attains with the Quran, and a taqwa that one attains through I don't know. What other way is there to attain the taqwa?
Yes. If we keep the Siam word is still there, so we don't know what that is. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Well-
but you're gonna go to the next word after that.
Okay.
So,
Well, we sort of know what Siam is just on 651 alone, because
Right.
651 tells us that preaching this Quran, which is a process, leads to taqwa.
right.
Yes.
So preaching this Quran is a process, and Siyam is a process.
Okay.
Right.
Do you see that?
Right.
Just like in 2185 that we were told that this process involves the Quran, and then the goal is to taqwa.
Right.
We never have taqwa without the Quran.
Right.
Yes. Yes, very good point. Like 651, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's very
preaching is
clear.
a process.
And
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
just
but
one-
we can continue with
Okay.
2185.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so those of you who witnessed this month shall Siyam therein. And then he gives the exception again. Says those who are ill or traveling may substitute the same number of other days. So there's that exception again. Those that are ill or traveling, they get to do it up, basically.
Right.
And then says, God wishes for you convenience, not hardship.
Right.
So this Siyam has to be something ease, not hard.
Right.
Because God clearly says, God wishes for you convenience, not hardship, that you may fulfill your obligations and to we have to bear that in mind. Again, God is telling us the purpose of this. He says that you may fulfill your obligations. So that's the purpose.
Right.
And to glorify God for guiding you. So again, this is to do with guidance again.
Right.
And to express your appreciation.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So this
What's the
Siyam,
word for, sorry, what's the word for obligation? How you say that it's obligation?
yeah, let me go for word because sometimes these translations can be quite tricky.
Yuridullahu bikumul.
Yeah, you're right. Yuridullah bikum al-asr. Yeah, he intends for you not hardship, so that you may complete the prescribed period. Nothing to do with obligation. Well spotted.
Okay. Okay.
Well spotted, you know.
All right. Okay.
Well spotted. Do you see the tricks they play? Well spotted. So
Mm.
yeah, so basically it's again talking about the period that this process is going to be for.
Mm.
So what we have here, again, summary, we have a process, we have the tool that is used for this process, namely the Quran, we have the goal, which is taqwa, and then here God tells us that all of this is so that we can complete the period and not to cause us hardship, and so that we may glorify God and for guiding us, and that we may show appreciation. How do you show appreciation other than following his guidance?
Right. Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if we continue with the next verse, and when my servants asks you about me, I am always near. I answer their prayers when they pray to me. So let them respond to me and let them believe in me, so that they may be rightly guided.
Right.
So there's a few things in this verse that I'd like to address.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, God says, when my servants ask you about me, then indeed I am near. I respond to the prayers of the caller when he calls me. That would clearly contradict the idea that there are particular times in a day that you pray to God, because God clearly says anytime.
Yes, another point. Good, very good point. Yes,
He
it's
clearly
clear.
says anytime I am here. I
Mm.
respond to the caller when he prays to me.
Mm.
God says that, not me. Yeah?
Mm.
And then another interesting point is that he says, so let them respond to me and let them believe in me.
Right.
So how do they respond to Allah? And how do they show that they believe in Allah? By accepting the Quran.
That is correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you see how it's connected? It
Mm.
never goes off topic.
Mm.
This is still the Quran talking. God talking in the Quran. Do you see what I mean?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Explaining, what the purpose of the Quran is, saying you can pray to me at any time, and that you should respond to him by believing in him, so
Mm.
that you may be rightly guided. And how will you be guided? By following the Quran.
Quran.
And believing in all the revelations in Quran.
Yes.
Yes.
Even that is following the Quran, because it's the Quran that tells you to do so.
Right.
Mm. Yes.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
So from 2183 to 2186, we are still discussing process, Quran, and the goal, which is taqwa.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah? And 2186, now we're discussing some of the contents of the Quran. Namely, you can pray to me at any time.
Yes.
Mm. Yeah,
Okay.
actually, in this ayat, it's a two-way process. Like
Mhm.
you have to, follow the Quran, then the dua will be, like
Yeah.
kind of.
Follow the Quran, and
Spot
then
on.
you'll be guided.
Spot on. I love the way you put
Mm.
that. That is exactly what it is.
Mm.
God says you can pray to me, but
Mm.
your side of the contract is by following the Quran.
Following the
Right.
Quran.
If you don't follow the Quran, you're not going to be guided. Period.
There you go. And why would you pray if you're not going to follow it?
Mm.
Right.
You see what I mean? So
Yes.
still we're discussing the Quran and basically how heavy the Quran is.
Mm.
So then we go to 2187. So it says, أحل لكم ليلة الصيام الرفث إلى نسائكم. So it says, permitted for you ليلة الصيام الرفث إلى نسائكم. So permitted for you in the nights of Siyam is to rafa إلى نسائكم, with your wives. Now rafa here has been translated as sexual intercourse. Yeah?
Mm.
Now, what we're going to do is we're going to remember, we're going to stick to the context that we have been reading so far.
Right.
Now, the context that we have been reading so far is in a nutshell talking about guidance being sent to a community, and
Right.
this guidance is now going to change their ways.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
So the question then is, when it says permitted for you, is it talking about permitted for you from now on? Or is it talking about permitted for you in the past?
From now on.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
Now, the narrative is that it's talking about from now on, but there's an easy way to refute that. Because it says permitted for you in the nights of Siam. We're going to go by their own translation now. It says permitted for you in the nights of Siam is the sexual intercourse with your wives. Now, the issue with that is that requires the assumption that people would have thought that they could not have sex with their wives at night. Why would they assume that?
No idea. Why?
You can't have that idea without the assumption.
Right.
Because there's no point telling a man you can have sex with your wife. Makes no sense.
It's totally out of the context. Yeah.
It's out of the context. Not only that, you can't even think of an excuse for it. There is no excuse for you can have sex with your wife other than you assuming for some reason that you can't have sex with your wife.
Right.
What other reason could there be? Why would you need to be told you can have sex with your wife?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. So this is right.
So that's one narrative.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to give you guys the other angle.
Yeah.
So that's one narrative. So one narrative is it's commanding the people to have sex with their wives from now on. However, the other angle, which is just simply linguistic, if you say permitted for you in the nights of Siam, and I'll explain the nights to you in a second. So the other alternative is that it's talking about what they used to practice. This is something they used to practice before they received the revelation.
Okay.
Okay. And then I'll explain to you that I'll show you that Rafath cannot mean a simple sexual intercourse, but because there's nothing wrong with having sex with your wife. I mean, you're supposed to. But listen to this. So what clarifies that it must be something wrong that they used to do, what clarifies that is what follows. So what follows is hunna libasun lakum wa antum libasun lahunna. Yeah, so they are garments for you and you are garments for them. Why would anyone need to be told that your wife is a garment for you and you are a garment for them unless you have forgotten that for whatever reason?
Right.
Yes.
Do you see what I mean?
It's a kind of reminder.
It's a reminder. So you must have done something wrong. And here's further proof. It says, God knows that you used to betray yourselves, and then he redeemed you, and then he pardoned you. You see that?
Right.
So God says, God knows you used to betray yourselves, and he redeemed you, and he pardoned you. So you must have done something wrong.
Right.
Do you see that? Is there any way of avoiding that? Would God say he's so remember, it's so garments for you and you are garments for them. God knows that you used to betray yourselves. So and now God has redeemed you and pardoned you. Do you see how it must be you've done something wrong and now God has forgiven you?
Right.
Is there any way around that?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah? So this is something they used to do. So Ar-Rafatu must be some sort of oppression that they used to do to their women
Right.
because they didn't have the guidance.
Right.
Do you see my point now?
Yeah,
Yes.
very good point. I think it's very good. Yeah.
And
Yes.
and then it says now how things are going to change is through this. God says, وَعَفًا عَنْكُمْ. So it redeemed you and pardoned you. So he says, فَأَلْأَنَا. So now. So now. You see, the fact that he's saying so now, what's before that is previous.
Right.
Okay.
Clear, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he says, so now. فَأَلْأَنَا بَاشِرُوهُنَّ وَابْتَغُوا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. So now, Bashiruhunna, look what the translations did again. So the translations put, so now, Bashiruhunna, have sex with them. They're sex mad. Arafatu means sexual intercourse, and Bashiruhunna means sexual intercourse. You see what the translations are doing?
That's what they did. They injected that.
So both words now have something to do with sex.
Right.
But it's not going to make sense because God has, why would God say, you've done wrong, he redeemed you, and he's forgiving you, so now go have sex?
Right.
How does one follow the other?
Right.
Are you with me?
Yes, it doesn't make any sense.
How does one follow the other? You've done wrong, God has redeemed you, pardoned you, so now have sex. How does that sentence follow?
Right. Doesn't
Why
make
would you even need to be told have sex?
Right.
You know what I mean?
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And it has nothing to do with the topic. Remember, the topic was all about a process
Right.
with the Quran for the purpose of attaining taqwa.
Right.
Somehow, sex is just being thrown left, right, and center.
Right.
But then it says, and here's where they really go way off the mark. And then it says, وَابْتَغُوا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. And see, so the word it starts with is and. Let's not forget that.
Right.
So we are now led to believe that God is saying, go have sex and seek what God has decreed for you. What has one got to do with the other? Think about it now. So it says, Bashiruhunna. So fa'al ana. So now, Bashiruhunna. You may have sexual intercourse with them. Again, yeah? And then it says, and وَابْتَغُوا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. And seek that which Allah has decreed for you. So what's being connected here is having sex with them and seeking what Allah has decreed for you. What has one got to do with the other?
Nothing.
Do you know how they explain that away? They say that what God is saying here is have sex with them and seek what Allah has decreed for you is referring to have children.
Right.
Were we born yesterday? What kind of nonsense is that? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Bear also in mind, when I say to you, seek that which Allah has decreed for you, where would you find it?
Only in Quran.
There you go.
Case closed.
And what have we been discussing all this time? The Quran. From 183 to 187, except the little games they played where they threw in sex, the conversation is still about the Quran.
Right.
Are you with me?
That is correct. It's all about
Where
Quran.
else do you seek what Allah has decreed for you?
Only in Quran. All the revelation.
The revelations, right?
Right.
Okay. So if we now, with that understanding, we can go back to Bashiruhunna. Bashiruhunna can have nothing to do with sex. However, what it can, what, if we are consistent with the word bashar in the Quran, consistently in the Quran, it means to give good news. And it's always referring to the Quran.
Right.
Always. I can give you a few verses right now. Let me give you a few verses right now. Okay. 297. We didn't even need to go far. Say, whoever was an enemy to Gabriel, then indeed he brought it down into your heart by the permission of God, confirming that which is between your hands, and a guidance and good news for the believers. Bashar. You see what I mean?
Right.
Contextually, because it's talking about the wrong things that you used to do with your wife, with your women. It doesn't even say wife, it's women. Because you used to do wrong things with your women, God has now redeemed you and he has now forgiven you. So now, bashiruhunna, and seek that which Allah has decreed for you. So now, for whatever you've done in the past, it's in the past, because now you're going to seek that which Allah has decreed for you. So now you're going to learn the Quran. So bashiruhunna can only mean to approach your women as well and to learn the Quran together.
Right. Very good
So
point.
give them the good news, in other words, and seek that which Allah has decreed for you, plural.
Right. And they're like you go back to them, and then because they are part of you. So just
Exactly. You used to do wrong.
Right.
Now you need to go back to them and seek what Allah has decreed for you, both of you.
Yeah, go back to them, communicate with them, mingle with them.
Yeah. Because you got to remember, the society that we are discussing is a society where it's a patriarchal society. The women are most likely at home. It is the men that are engaging with all of this. This is why the Quran is mostly addressing the men, because that is the audience that are present, and then they go home and take it to their wives. You get it?
That's a very good point, brother. I think this is
So that's literally what it's saying.
Right. You go back to
when
them.
You go to them, basically share it with them.
Share it with them. Very good point. Very good point. I think this is what it is. Yeah.
And then to clarify further what we are saying, so seek that which Allah has decreed for you. Right. And then it says, and see that? The famous word, and. Yeah. So seek that which Allah has decreed for you, and. Yeah. So now what we are being told is seek that which Allah has decreed for you and eat. Right. What has eating got to do with seeking that which Allah has decreed for you?
That's a good.
See that? They're trying to tell us, seek that which Allah has decreed for you and eat and drink. How does one follow the other?
Right. Yeah, if you saying eat and drink, that have nothing to do with what's going on so far. I mean,
nothing. Especially when you connect it to seeking that which Allah has decreed for you. Seek that which Allah has decreed for you and eat and drink. What's the difference between me saying that and saying seek that which Allah has decreed for you and watch TV? What's the difference?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit, right? It doesn't fit.
So what it could be?
Well, what it could be, again, we always stay consistent with the Quran. There is no, I always tell people this, the Quran does not need any apologetics. No one needs to defend the Quran. The Quran is very clear on its own. No explanations necessary. No interpretation necessary.
It's so good to hear that, like you were saying, it's easy. Normally people don't say that.
Well, yeah. A lot of people have been bullied.
Yes.
They have been convinced that they cannot approach the Quran, let alone understand it. And obviously there are a lot of people who are getting recognition for themselves and even income for themselves by claiming that they are somewhat or somehow more learned and somehow have more insights on the Quran than others. It's just a way of exalting oneself and oppressing others. But the Quran itself, I mean, in 2185 clearly says it is a guidance for mankind, not some men, not a group of people,
Yes.
not a particular kind of people. It doesn't even, the Quran is not even for Muslims. The Quran is for mankind. It's not a religious book. It's not a sectarian book.
Yes.
It's for mankind.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
So with that said, going back to Kulu and Washrabu, what we do is we simply stay consistent with the rules of the Quran. So the rules of the Quran and the rules of Arabic, and actually I just learned the other day that Mandarin is also like this, and I'm sure a lot of other languages are like that. What it is you have a word, and then the word can have several meanings that are quite synonymous with each other. And the way it's utilized depends on the context.
Right.
So for instance, the word kulu and washrabu in the Quran itself is translated as consume and absorb, or eat and drink. It can be both.
Okay.
Okay. So depending where you put it, in what context.
Depending on what context you put it in. Bear in mind that if you say consume and absorb, that also includes eating and drinking.
Right.
So there is really no argument that can be made to insist that it must be eat and drink, and it cannot be consume and drink and consume and absorb. Because consume and absorb includes eat and drink.
Yes.
However, the people that are arguing it must be eat and drink, they want to paint a certain narrative, and they can only do so if they insist on that translation. Because the moment you translate it as consume and absorb, the question then becomes consume and absorb what? And then the answer then becomes what the context says.
So you're saying on this verse, 187, Surah Baqarah, so it's not literally eating burgers or drinking sodas. It's basically when you look at the whole context, it's talking about consume and absorb all the revelation sent down to you.
Well, I don't want to appear biased in any way, shape, or form. What I like to do is give people the chance to verify things for themselves.
Okay.
So I'm trying to be consistent with the Quran. So what you will find with the Quran is that when a word is used, say for instance, kulu and washrabu, whether it should be translated as consume and absorb or eat and drink, it is always clarified by the context. Always.
Okay.
For instance, if we go to chapter 293, and when we took your covenant and we raised above you the mount, take what we gave you with strength and listen. They said, we heard and we disobeyed, and they absorbed or drank. You choose. And they absorbed / drank in their hearts the love of the calf because of their disbelief. Say, evil is what orders with it your faith, if you are believers. Wait, let me. Their hearts became drank with adoration for the calf, or their hearts became absorbed with adoration for the calf. I'll leave the choice to the reader. To their disbelief. Say, miserable indeed is what your faith dictates upon you, if you have any faith. So you have two choices here. Either one drinks the love of the calf in their hearts, or one absorbs the love of the calf in their hearts. The context resolves that. What can you do? You tell me. Can you drink it or do you absorb it?
Absorb. Better. Absorb is better.
Nothing to do with me.
Yeah,
The
nothing to do.
context resolve that.
Yes.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So another example. If we go to 2:188.
Yeah, the verse after 187, right?
Yeah. You shall not consume each other's money illicitly, or you shall not consume each other's, you shall not eat each other's wealth. One of the two. Do
That's a
you
good
eat
point.
each other's wealth or do you consume each other's wealth?
Very good point.
Consume. But the
So all-
word is same. The kullu.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot give you, if you have $100,000, I cannot drink or eat that.
But you can consume it.
Consume it, right? So
There you go. So it's not a matter of Arabic. It's just a matter of literacy, reading context. So now, again, when we go to 2:187, I don't need to say it does not say eat and drink. I literally don't need to say that. It is upon the reader to justify it from the context. I don't need to tell him anything.
right.
So if you say eat and drink, the context has to allow you that. So if you
Right.
say eat and drink, what in this context is talking about eating and drinking anything?
Right. When you look at from going all the way back from 183.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even when you go forward, eat and drink what?
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense.
At least nobody can attain taqwa.
On top of that.
Yeah.
On top of that,
Yeah,
exactly.
so-
And you can't attain taqwa from that either.
Yeah, let's talk about that, Brother Maverick, which is the people who argue about that, let's say if they do that, they do fasting literally, like, they don't eat or drink. What do you say about those people saying that they're doing for taqwa? You think when you read all those verses, can they establish taqwa doing that?
What we can establish from all of these verses is that the verses have told us that we have the following. We have a process, namely Siam. We have a goal, namely Taqwa. We have the tool, namely the Quran.
Right.
And then 2:187 has now told us what we are to do with the Quran, namely consume and absorb. Do you see how it all goes together?
Right.
Process, goal, Quran, consume and absorb.
Mm-hmm.
There is no accident here.
Right.
Yes.
So, I mean, well, people on the other side, when they say that, like I said, my question to you is like, they say, well, they're gaining taqwa, but when just literally, not eating or, drinking or not eating. But when you look at all the verses in context, Allah has telling us how you can achieve the taqwa by only trying to, understand the revelation and trying to have His guidance. That's the only way you can achieve taqwa. Is that correct?
That is correct. And in fact, if we argue and say that there is an alternative way or there is another way, then automatically what we do is we equate the Quran, the very word of God, with some sort of something else. Whatever it is, whether it's a particular ritual, whether it's another book, whatever it is. If the Quran is, if God is telling us to use the Quran to attain taqwa, if you are telling us that you are trying to attain the same taqwa by an alternative means, then automatically either the Quran is not good enough. It's a direct competition with the Quran.
That's a very good point. That's not, it's not possible. Like,
And what is that?
It's a direct competition with the
Yeah.
Quran. Unless they say it's not taqwa they're trying to attain, but taqwa 2.0. You know what I mean? Like another level of taqwa,
Like another version. Yeah.
like another version of something.
yes, Let's continue the ayat because there are more things to discuss.
Yes, indeed.
Mm.
287. I'll go back there. Yeah, there's another thing they do here that I'm going to clarify. So we have consume and absorb.
Mhm.
Consume and absorb until. So this consuming and absorption is until it becomes clear to you the white thread from the black thread of dawn. Before I move on from that, what they like to do is they like to change white and black to day and night.
Yes, it's
Right.
very common.
Again, that is basically overriding the Quran. God does not need anyone's help. He knows the words that he's using. He specifically chose white and black, not night and day.
Okay, so there's no word as a night.
Nope, it's black and white, white and black.
White and black, black and white.
Yeah. And to explain what the white and black is, it's very easy because God says what? Consume and absorb until the white thread is clear from the black thread of dawn. Before I clarify dawn, let me clarify white thread from the black thread. It is no different to saying until it becomes black and white to you, until it becomes clear.
It is, unless, it's clear to you.
Yeah, so basically consume and absorb until it becomes
Till it's
clear.
clear to you.
Yeah, white and black is a very common universal saying for literally saying until it becomes clear.
Right.
Yeah?
A very good point.
Yes, and it has the connection with Al-Furqan also, like, the criterion.
100%. Yeah, but that's the whole point. The point is you consume and absorb the Quran until it becomes clear. When it becomes clear is when you understand the criterion. It's not clear if you haven't got the criterion. You can't have criterion without clarity. And you can't have clarity and not the criterion. You see? The two go hand in hand. Now I'm going to explain to you of dawn. And you already explained that, actually. Remember earlier on, Pegham, when you said that that the coming down of the Quran is a new day.
Right.
Yes, that's Shahrul Ramzan. Yes.
Yeah. So when he says of dawn, that is precisely what it's referring to, because the Quran it's the new day. So consume and absorb until it becomes clear to you the new day, basically the new ways. Because the Arabic word here, it doesn't even have to be dawn, because the Arabic word is al-fajr. Al-fajr is basically something gushing forth.
Okay.
Something that have come forward.
Right.
So what this verse is basically saying, consume and absorb until it becomes clear to you that which has come gushing forth.
Okay.
Right.
And what has come gushing forth, considering this context? The Quran.
Quran.
Right.
Yes.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then it says, then atimmu siyam ila layl. Then complete the Siyam or fulfill the Siyam until the night. Remember earlier on when it said, فَمَنْ شَهَدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْهُ. Whoever witnessed the new moon shall Siyam. Yeah, in 2:185.
Right.
So the people who witnessed the phenomena, they had to stop whatever they're doing and now basically engage with the Quran. Yeah, so they are undergoing this process. This process is only up until the night. This is why it says complete the Siyam until the night. So nighttime you can go home, in other words, because this is school. This is training they're going through.
Okay.
So here it means the night, actually.
Yeah,
night.
the night. It literally means the night. So you're doing this Siyam. Siyam is training until the night. So nighttime you go home.
So is it like the Layl could be the dark era?
Yeah, it's when it becomes dark. Layl is actually night in the Quran. Yeah, it's night. It's when it becomes dark. When it becomes dark. Isha is when it's really, really night, I guess.
Yes, but what about the dark period? when before the Quran was not like revealed.
Oh,
Possible?
good point. But in this context, it's not using it as such.
Okay, is this?
But that's
Okay.
a very good point. But this
Yeah.
particular context is simply to remember we have people who are doing a training.
Okay.
Training only goes on for a certain couple of hours. You can't just be there forever.
Right.
You see what I mean?
All
So,
right. Okay.
so this verse is simply saying, and then Siyam until the night. So you're doing this consuming and absorbing and doing this Siyam with the Quran and everything until the night.
Mhm.
Right.
So nighttime you can go.
Right.
Okay.
And then it says, and do not, here they go with their sex business again. And do not, وَلَا تُبَاشِرُوهُنَّ وَأَنْتُمْ عَاكِفُونَ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. So where they translated it here, which is horrible, is they said, and do not have intercourse with them while you are in the masjid, in the mosque. So if we go with that translation, people would have had to have assumed that you can have sex in the mosque.
Yes.
Because why would you need to tell them don't have sex while you are in the mosque? Why would you need to tell them that?
Hmm.
Do you see how it doesn't work? How
Absolutely.
does it work? How can you do not have sex with them while you are in the mosque? Make sense of that.
No.
So what is the meaning of that?
Okay. So remember Bashiruhunna, earlier on we said Bashiruhunna can only mean approach your wives and basically share
Right.
the guidance with them. So now here we have and do not. So now we have do not approach them. So do not approach them while you are secluded in the masjid. I'll translate masjid for you in a minute. So while you are secluded in the masjid. So when you are secluded in the masjid is when you are undergoing this training, basically. This training with the Quran.
Okay.
Yeah? So while you are undergoing that training, you are not to approach people because you need to learn the deen like yourself.
Okay. So right, you cannot just go start teaching people
Until you've understood and learned yourself.
unless you're trained yourself first.
Exactly.
That's what exactly meaning here.
Exactly. And to clarify masjid for you, let's be honest. They were just given the Quran. They don't have a mosque. There is no mosque. The Quran was just revealed to them. What mosque?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes.
So to make it very simple for you, the way they get the word masjid is two words. You have sajda, and then you have the meme as a prefix. So sajda means, the way they say it means to prostrate. So they then say, because sajda means to prostrate, the meme simply means a place. So therefore you have a place of prostration. A place of prostration, therefore, is a mosque. That's how they get to the conclusion. Yeah?
Right.
However, in the Quran, the word sajda can only mean submit. It can never mean prostration in the Quran.
Right.
So since the word sajda means submit in the Quran, and the meme makes it a place, what we have is a place of submission and not a mosque.
Okay.
And the place of submission is simply the territory where the Prophet is, where he's disseminating the Quran that has just been revealed to him.
Okay.
Because that territory is now a place where people are submitting.
Right.
The alternative is rebellious. Do you see that?
Right.
Rebellious, submitting. This particular place is a submitting place.
Right.
In fact, the word masjid, since we went there, the word masjid is actually simply opposite to the communities that have been destroyed. Because the communities that have been destroyed, they were destroyed because they rejected.
Right.
However, the communities or places that accept that accept, submit, they are called masjid because they are places of submission.
Right.
So nothing to do with the mosque.
So this
Masjid
looks
is
like,
simply opposite to the
also
places that
looks like
reject.
when you read this verse, probably there's some of the folks at that time close to Prophet, they're doing the training in the nights also. And and they're saying that while you're in training, like I would say hardcore training going on, and then Allah was saying that while you're in training, do not approach them. Do not approach doesn't mean that approaching your, you know, significant other is approaching anybody. Like
Yes,
start teaching somebody else without any knowledge. I think that's
absolutely,
not like approaching. It doesn't mean approaching your wives there.
absolutely, spot on,
So I don't
spot on,
think that it
spot on.
addressing to their
So
wives only. You know,
spot on. So in a nutshell, while you are undergoing this training, you're a student. Don't go out there. Very simple.
right. Start teaching
Yes.
people. Right.
Yeah. And then says that تلك حدود الله فلا تقربوها كذلك يبين الله آياته للناس لعلهم يتقون. Remember that word taqwa again? There we
Hmm.
have it again. So these are the limits of God. See, this is God's teaching. These are the limits. These are the boundaries.
Right.
These are the boundaries of God. Do not approach it. Thus does God clarify his verses, revelations for the people so that they may become taqwa. You see that?
Right.
So what we've discussed so far, how do you get away from the Quran? What is 2183 all the way to 2187 discussing other than training, Quran, taqwa?
That's it. It's all about Quran, revelation,
Yes.
and Allah's guidance. How
So
important.
all they've done is they threw in eat and drink without justifying it in the context, and they threw in a bunch of sex here, sex there, which just means absolutely nothing in these verses, and then they threw in don't have sex while you're in the mosque. Like their ideas,
Yes.
there's just no way of justifying it.
Let me like just to be like, you know, I mean, a simple thing. Like, for example, if let's say I stopped eating or drinking and not reading Quran, not reading anything in Quran, not trying to understand Quran, how I know how I'm gonna gain anything like as far as the taqwa, or how I'm gonna follow Allah guidance, just not simply not eating or drinking. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Exactly. Not only does that not make sense, let's say, for example, you do the fasting thing where you abstain from food and drink, and I take time out of my day, study my scripture, and do my best to uphold what I've learned. Please explain to me how you have something that I don't. What do you have?
I
What
can
is
show
this
you
stuff
that
what that you've got that
I
I'm
can
lacking?
tell you that I lost 50 pounds not eating and drinking.
Other than that, I want to know what could you possibly have that I don't from engaging with the Quran.
That's what I'm saying. I don't have
Yeah,
anything just to show that I did not eat or drink. But obviously, you have everything. You have done read the Quran, you follow the
understood it,
guidance, right?
live by it.
And also, you have spread the Allah's message to other folks,
Exactly,
which is actually this is the whole idea. I mean,
exactly.
for the Siam, that you understand, had some understanding, pure, hardcore understanding, and then you go out and give Allah's message to other folks. That's the whole
Indeed,
purpose of Siam.
indeed,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yes. The other thing is there could never be any conflict in Quran. And the word you use, the goal. So if you see the goal to attain the taqwa in other verses, so it cannot be different in this verse.
That's exactly the point.
Yes, this is so simple, and there's can never be conflict. We know that.
100%.
So,
Brother,
so
there's
100%.
one more ayat. I think if you look at I think that ayat, chapter 19, verse 26, which is referring to Maryam.
Yes.
So that's talk about also that people say about eating and drinking. What is your understanding on that? On that?
Well, this particular verse, it will be dismissed because they will say Mary has just given birth. So because she's just given birth, she's excused from fasting from food and drink. That's the excuse that they will give you. So and I accept that. I'll let them get away with that. However, this is what cannot be avoided. What can't be avoided is just like in the 2183 to 187 that we were just discussing, where the Quran was revealed. It is the same thing over here, because Mary has just had revelation herself. An angel has come to her, has informed her she's going to have a baby, and her baby's got this. Her baby's going to have the entire scripture. So even she's not doing Siam until she's received revelation herself.
Right.
You see that? So Siam is never divorced from revelation. And then on top of that, she says what her Siyam is, which is actually the same as what we were just reading. Remember what we were just reading? It says, وَلَا تُبَاشِرُوهُنَّ وَأَنْتُمْ عَاكِفُونَ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. So do not approach them, meaning do not basically spread the message while you are still studying yourself, right?
Training, yeah.
Training yourself. Mary is actually showing us what that means, because she just received revelation, she has no time for frivolous talk. So she literally says, today I'm doing my Siyam, so therefore I will not speak to you guys.
So she's also trying to consume and absorb the revelation. Is that right?
Yes, that's precisely why. Literally, just like it said in 187, that while you are devoted to the masjid, while you are devoted to the place of submission, still going through the learning of the Quran, to not go and spread it, not go and engage
that's
with
what I
people,
was
blah, blah,
thinking.
blah. Mary is doing the same thing, because she's literally saying, she literally says, where is it?
Means do not mingle with others. Yeah,
1926.
you can say that.
No, I want to know where she speaks to them. Yeah. So she says, and if you both see from a human being anyone, then say, indeed, I vow to the most gracious as Siyam. So, you see, Siyam is connected to so. As Siyam, so I will not speak today to any human being.
Right.
You see that? Because she's undergoing the process.
Undergoing to that training, yeah.
Going through the training. So she has no time for chit chat.
Right.
You see that? Exactly what 2187 was telling us. وَلَا تُبَاشِرُوهُنَّ وَأَنْتُمْ عَاكِفُونَ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. Do not approach them while you are devoted to the masjid.
Yeah,
Literally
very
what
good
Mary
connection.
is doing. She's
Very
devoted
good
to the
connection.
masjid.
Yes.
And we, when we learn something, we have to be sure about it within ourselves. So this is very clear. Like you have to realize what is black and white actually.
There you
Then
go.
then we should approach others and preach.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
And brother, there are some other verses I want you to please elaborate on that. There's chapter 58, verse 4.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate? That's also talking about Siam there and fasting for 60 days.
Yes. Again, if we stay consistent with what we've learned so far, we've learned that Siyam is a process that leads to a goal, and that goal being Taqwa. So what we have here, and we've also been told in 2187 when that process is necessary, namely when a person is lost, misguided. Yeah. Hence why it says, for instance, when it's talking about your woman, They are garments for you, you are garments for them. God has redeemed you and forgiven you. So people were misguided, and the process and the purpose of the Siyam is to basically guide people to the Taqwa.
Right.
Yeah. So what we see from 58:4 is someone that does someone that does wrong, someone that is basically misguided, at least when it comes to this particular action that they've done. So because they've done wrong, God then says, because they've done wrong, God then says, wait, let me go to 58:3. Yeah, because they've done wrong, God says what they need to do is they need to free a captive. By the way, the translation is not a slave, it is a captive, because the Prophet and the believers engaged in war, and as we all know, with war there will be prisoners of war. Has nothing to do with a slave.
Okay.
So it says the freeing of a captive from before they go back to each other, the man and the wife, because he's done a wife wrong, basically. And that you are enlightened therein, that God is aware of what you used to do. And then 58:4 says, if you don't have a captive, if there is no captive to release, then God says 2 months consecutively before they both touch each other. So that, before they touch each other. And then it says, who is not able to do this Siam for 2 months, then he need to feed 60 poor ones. 60 poor ones. Right. So that you may believe in God and his messenger. These are the limits of God, and for the disbelievers a painful retribution. Now notice this, and this shows again the mercy of God. This really, really shows again the mercy of God. So God put the releasing of a captive, the releasing of a prisoner, before the abstaining for 2 months. Right. So the releasing of a prisoner is more important, or again, is the goal of Siam anyway, is to do good, right?
Right.
So the releasing of a prisoner is put before the 2 month Siam. And the 2 month Siam is put before feeding the 60 poor people, because the 60 poor people is always going to be a result of doing the Siyam anyway, because that's what the Quran teaches.
Right.
Are you with me?
Right.
So what we have here is someone has done wrong, and to atone for the wrong that they have done, they are to do three things. Either A, release captives, B, do Siyam for 2 months, or C, feed 60 poor people.
Okay.
So the question then is, we have two alternatives. Well, what is this Siyam? What is this Siyam that you do for 2 months? Can it be different to what we have been discussing so far?
No, it cannot.
I don't see how it could possibly be different to what we've been discussing so far. Do you see what I mean?
So you're saying that on this one, this ayah, 58:4, so they're saying that you go back and read the Quran and try to understand Quran what to say for 2 months at least, try to get a good understanding.
I don't see what else you can do to improve the wrong that you have done.
How about like rehabilitation based on?
Well, that's precisely what it is. Think about it. What is going back to the Quran but rehabilitation?
Right. So the only way you can fix yourself, understand the Quran for at least 2 months, then you will know what you have done wrong and what is the right thing you have to do.
The only way a human being will improve authentically, without force, is if they choose to follow the guidance of God.
Right.
What other way is there?
There's no other way.
And start doing good things, good deeds.
Which is a result of following
yes,
the word.
This is the guidance.
You know what? Speaking of that, Hina, just want to quickly touch on this. speaking of the result of following the Quran, one of my trigger points that made me realize something is going on and I need to investigate things is I would look at the behaviors of Sunnis. I would look at their behavior and then I would remember what the Quran teaches and I would see a conflict. So I would see how the Quran teaches all of these great qualities, mercy, justice, reason, etc. And then I would see people who behave contrary to what the Quran says. However, they would have all of the symbols. They would do all of the rituals, all of the symbols, all of that. But when it comes to the actual guidance of the Quran, they don't seem to actually, portray that. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yes, yes.
So going back to what you were saying about following the action, it is impossible to believe in the Quran and not do the action, because that's the whole point.
Right.
The whole point of the Quran. Because let's remember what the Quran is. The Quran is a glad tiding and a warning. If there is no action that comes from that glad tiding and warning, then do you really believe in the warning or the glad tidings?
And there is something wrong with your understanding.
Do you see what I mean? You can't have one without the other. Exactly. I mean, what people are forgetting is, what is the purpose of Judgment Day? What are you judged on? Are you judged on you simply claiming I believe? Or are you judged on your deeds?
Your deeds.
There you go.
And then deeds has to be suitable deeds.
Suitable deeds, exactly. That is what you are judged on. You're not supposed to just sit back and say, I believe. There's no proof. What proves that you believe? You said so?
Right.
What proves that you believe is your conduct, your actions.
Yeah, that's a very good point, brother. This is very important, I think. And there's another ayat also, chapter 4, verse 92.
Yes.
Which is Surah.
Which is the same thing again. We have someone who's basically killed someone innocent.
Right.
Someone who is not a threat to them. And because they have done that, again, the same thing. The first option, the first condition is to free a captive. And if there is no captive, a minute. Yeah, if there is no captive, then again, Siam for 2 months. And is there a third one with this? Yeah, there is no.
No, just
this. Look how beautiful the Quran is. Look let me explain what we just noticed here. That when it comes to the killing, there is no actually, I'm just going to feed poor people to sort of, make up for that. You see that? There is no feeding poor people that will make up for the fact that you killed someone. So rich people don't get to use their money to go kill people here. Do you see that?
But they have to, free the captive.
And if they don't have a captive, which in this day and age, unless they're engaging in war, they won't have a captive. So they would have to do the 2 months of Siam. So which means they would have to basically retrain their ways.
It's kind of rehabilitation, yes.
Rehabilitation.
Yes.
Literally rehabilitation.
And there is another, before that, if you kill, mistakenly, that's the most important thing.
Yes. This is someone who's not a threat to you. You see, when the word mu'min is used, the word mu'min is to do with trust and security. Has nothing to do with a believer. It's to do with trust and security. And the trust and security in question is clarified from the context. So in this particular context, it's simply referring to someone who's not a threat to you. It has nothing to do with someone who's actually a believer.
Oh, okay. Yes.
You get it? Someone
Yes.
who's not a threat to you. If they're not a threat to you, you can't kill them.
Hmm.
But here's the crux of the matter here. The crux of the matter is you have two choices when someone has done this. Either A, they rehabilitate with the Quran, or B, they rehabilitate by avoiding food and drink for 2 months. Now let's be honest. How is avoiding food and drink a rehabilitation for this?
Right, that's what I was going to say. I don't think that just not eating or drinking will change you in a way, unless you were go back, for example, the probation. They give a
Yeah,
probation, they give you different things to learn
yeah.
during your probation. Then you might change your lifestyle again. But just stopping, just stop drinking or eating.
Yeah,
How you can, better yourself in that regard.
precisely.
Killing someone.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's just about consistency.
Hmm.
Right. And then also there is one, I think it's chapter
589.
589, I think, talks about Siam also.
Yeah, again, this is to breaking an oath. So if you break an oath, then you are to atone for it by either feeding 10 people the best of what you feed your families and clothing them, or freeing a captive. But whoever doesn't have, if there is no captive to free, then Siam for 3 days. So again, what has fasting for 3 days got to do with you breaking an oath?
And
Hmm.
yeah, when you
So
look at the whole context, it doesn't make any sense.
No. However, if I break an oath and for 3 days I concentrate on the Quran, then basically I will be chastised if I'm really a Muslim to basically do better.
Right.
yes, and feeding, the
Yeah,
feeding people is a good deed. Like if you
it's a
keep,
great deed.
if you keep practicing, and then obviously the change will be there.
Change will be there. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it.
Yes.
Imagine you're someone who breaks an oath, but then you go and feed poor people.
Hmm.
Eventually, that will have to have an effect on you. You're
Hmm.
feeding poor people, but you can't keep a promise. You
Hmm.
can't be. It's a contradiction. You can't. The same individual cannot be both.
Yes. True.
Before we move on, I want to go to the last one on this particular Siam.
So,
There's one more verse that
okay.
is very, very important. I think it's in no 33. Yeah, 33, 35. Sorry.
Okay.
33, 35. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yes. It's. Uh,
Now, if you look at the attributes of these individuals, how does an individual with the attribute of fasting fit in?
another good point. Yes.
So think about it. Say you have a room. So in this
Hmm.
room, you have surrendering men, surrendering women, believing men, believing women, obedient men, obedient women, truthful men and truthful women, steadfast men and steadfast women, reverend men and reverend women, men who give to charity and women who give to charity, and the men who guard their chastity and the women who guard their chastity, and the men commemorating God much frequently and the women commemorating God much frequently.
Hmm.
In that room, would you fit in someone who has the attribute of men and women who fast?
Yes. You're right.
Will they fit in that room?
The,
No.
the poor people should be there if the
Huh?
fasting.
Exactly. You might as well just say believing men, believing women, truthful men, truthful women, and poor men and poor women. It's,
Hmm.
this it's the same thing. It doesn't fit.
Hmm.
Like what
The,
Hina says. I mean, if somebody, for example, from a very, very poor country they don't eat that much, they
Yeah.
don't drink that much. You cannot
Yeah.
include those people in this group.
Yeah, and that's not the guarantee of being, taqwa, of attaining taqwa.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a very
And
And
good
we,
then there's
point.
the alternative. The alternative is someone who basically rehabilitates with the Quran when they go
Right,
astray.
yes,
right.
Now think about it now. If you have surrendering men, surrendering women, believing men, believing women, obedient women, truthful men, truthful women, you can have men and women who, when they go astray, rehabilitate with the word of their maker.
hmm,
That's
Or
a quality.
another thing came on
You,
my
you could
mind.
say, you could say repenting. Yeah, might as well say repenting men and repenting women. It's the same thing
Brother,
hmm.
another
because
thing came
that's
on
why
mind.
they rehabilitate with the Quran.
That's why
You know what? I was thinking about something like people in the West, they diet too much, They
Yes.
exercise and diet.
Yep.
For example, in this group, somebody's, oh, okay, I go to work in the morning, from morning to evening, I don't eat. So you have to put me in that group because
Oh, 100%. 100%.
how
There
you
are
gonna put
plenty
that
people who don't
person
eat throughout the day. They only eat at
right
night.
in the yeah, he don't eat. I want the part of this group. Include me in
Uh,
that group.
Absolutely.
yeah,
This
Absolutely.
this is very good point.
this is a good point,
Being
brother.
being
Very good point.
hungry and like doing fasting has nothing to do with this group.
No,
Exactly.
that's what I'm saying.
Hmm.
I am the person who do jogging, exercise from morning, go to work. I don't eat anything, and come back home and then I eat. I want a part of this group. You gonna include me on this group?
You would have to if people want to continue that translation.
If you agree with the argument on the other side
Yeah.
that eating and drinking is fast,
Yeah.
Hmm.
then you have to include those folks.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
There's no way
Very,
around that.
very good point, brother. This
Yeah.
very
ayat is
good
very
point.
powerful. Yeah.
But
God is not bothered by traditions in the Quran. He's not
yeah.
bothered by that at all.
Hmm.
No,
He judges tangible actions.
I
Yeah.
think you have connected all the dots, brother Maverick. It's very good research.
And notice I didn't give any translation. We
Right.
just stuck with the context. That's all we did.
Very, very good research.
Very good.
There
Like
is
your
one
point.
more that we have to do. It's going to be
Sure.
quite tricky,
Okay.
but we can't. It's the last one with
Uh-huh.
Siam,
Hmm.
and this one sort of closes the case. But this one we're going to have to translate a few words here, but we'll deal with it all. Are you guys ready?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Which verse is that?
595.
The killing.
Yes. So to understand 595, maybe we need the context. So if you go to the verse before 594,
Okay.
so we get a context. So what we have is, oh, you who believe, God will test you with some game within reach of your hands and your arrows. God thus distinguishes those among you who observe him in their privacy. Those who transgress after this have incurred a painful retribution. So God is testing the believers with basically the game that they hunt.
Right.
Yeah, so this is the animals that you hunt, game animals.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and then we're gonna get rules for this hunting thing, basically. So this is about hunting. God is saying, look, when it comes to hunting, there are certain rules that has to be followed. So
Right.
if we read the next verse, 595, we're gonna be given these rules. O you who believe, do not kill any game while you are sanctioned. Wa antum hurumun. So before I move on, all those who believe, do not kill any game while you are hurumun. In the translation, what they have done with hurumun is they have translated it as something to do with pilgrimage and
Yeah.
Mecca, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
However, the word haram, hurum, harama, which you guys I'm sure have heard of, it comes
Mm-hmm.
from the word you guys are familiar with is haram, meaning
Mm-hmm.
forbidden.
Right.
It has nothing to do with a particular location. It means prohibition, or it can also mean sanction.
Okay.
Now, what we know with sanction is that sanction can be both that which is allowed and that which is illegal. The word sanction covers both. It depends on the context. Do you see what I mean?
Right.
Mm.
And to know that hurumun means sanction and not just prohibition, where we can get the evidence for that is from chapter 6, 151. So if we go to chapter 6, 151, we are told, say, come, I will recite to you what harama rabbikum, what harama your Lord for you. Yeah?
Oh,
And
yeah.
how we're going to know that it's sanction and not prohibition is the following. So it says, I will recite to you what harama your Lord for you.
Right.
Do not associate partners with him anything. And with parents, do good. So clearly God is not telling us that doing good to parents is forbidden.
Right.
Mm.
He's telling us that is sanctioned.
Mm.
Do you see it?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Sanction covers both that which is forbidden and that which is allowed.
Mm.
So in this verse, we see the first one God starts with is do not associate partners with him. That is forbidden.
Right.
However, and with parents, do good. That is permitted. Do you see
Right.
it? Sanction covers both.
Right.
You with me?
Yes. Yes. Got it.
So,
Yeah.
so now that we understand what hurumun is, we can go back to 595.
Okay.
So there's a period of sanction. There's a period when hunting is sanctioned. Yeah? Because it says while. While indicates a period of time.
Mm.
Yeah?
Right.
So while you are sanctioned. So for that period, do not hunt game. Yeah?
Right.
And whoever killed it among you intentionally. So this is, although you are sanctioned, whoever killed it among you intentionally. So you've broken the law. Yeah?
Right.
So if you break the law, God tells you then what happens. So it says, whoever killed it among you intentionally, then he shall give similar to what he killed of the cattle. You see that?
Right.
So if you have killed when you are sanctioned from doing so, then you shall give from your cattle similar to that which you have killed.
Right.
Are you guys with me so far?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And here's we're gonna deal with something else here that you're gonna find interesting.
Okay.
And then he says, Yahkumu bihi, judging in it. Yeah, so there's going to be judges that are going to judge what you give as a requital for that which you killed. Yeah, there has to be judges for it, because you can obviously give like a little animal while you have killed a big animal. You see what I mean?
Right.
So there needs to be judges that will judge what you give.
Okay.
So Allah says, judging in it two possessors of justice among you. So there's going to be two folks who are going to judge what you give as a requital for what you killed. Are you guys with me so far?
Right.
Yes.
All right. Pay attention to this part, because this part is what gets rid of the idea that Kaaba has anything to do with a cube structure.
Okay.
Listen to this. So it says, Hadyan baligh al-Kaaba. Hadyan baligh al-Kaaba. So remember what we were discussing, because this hadyan is connected to that. So what we were discussing is you killed when you're not supposed to kill. You give something of your own as a requital for that which you killed, and judging in it are two possessors of justice among you. You with me so far?
Right.
And then it says hadyan baligh al-Kaaba. So they've translated here as offering reaching the Kaaba.
Mm-hmm.
That translation is highly problematic because it doesn't follow. What we were discussing is two possessors of justice who are going to judge that which you give as a requital for what you killed. How do we then go from that to offering reaching the Kaaba? Let's say it's a place. Offering reaching the Kaaba.
That's a good
What
point.
has offering reaching the Kaaba got to do with A, two possessors of justice, and B, what has it got to do with you hunting when you're not supposed to hunt?
And why you have to go to a specific place for that?
Exactly. What has the specific place got to do with this?
Mm.
And the biggest issue is you haven't explained how the two possessors of justice are going to judge. You've just said if you kill when you're not supposed to kill, then you need to give something in return. Judging in it are two possessors of justice. Okay, cool. But how are they going to judge? How are they going to know what I've killed? How are they doing the judgment? It has not been explained. You see that?
Right.
Yes.
Instead of explaining that, what they said is offering reaching the Kaaba. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
So it has to do with the judges, I think.
Great point. Now listen to this. You know, you're very, very ahead of me here.
No, I don't know. I'm just.
No, you're really good. You're really good. You're gathering it very quick.
Okay.
Now listen to this. So the word hadyan comes from the same root as huda. It means to guide, guidance. You see that?
Yes. That's true.
Nothing to do with offering. It's guidance. Throughout the Quran, hadyan means guidance.
Right. Yes.
And then, so we have guidance, baligh. Baligh, it can mean reaching or it can mean toward. That's not a problem. So guidance, reaching, and then we have Kaaba now. So guidance, reaching the Kaaba. So before we explain what Kaaba is, we need to explain who does the guidance. The guidance has to be done by the two possessors of justice.
Okay.
Right.
Because that is how they do the judging.
Right.
You see it? They do the judging by guiding to something, by directing towards something.
Right.
So now what we need to do is we need to see what they are directing towards. Directing and guiding is synonymous. If you're guiding someone, you're directing them to something. If you're directing them, you're guiding them. It's synonymous. Yeah? So directing towards something. So now what we need to do is we need to understand what Kaaba means. And to understand what Kaaba means, what we'll do is we will just be consistent with the rest of the Quran. So for instance, if we go to 78:33, we will see wakawaib. Wakawaib is just plural of Kaaba here. So wakawaib here is translated as splendid or glorious or prominent companions. You see that? So we don't need the companions part.
Oh, never thought that. Is it the plural of Kaaba?
Yes. Wakawaib. Wa is just end. Kawaib is just plural. Kawa.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So what we have here is simply splendid, glorious, prominent. One of the three. what they all have in common is simply something significant. Are you with me?
Yes.
Prominent is that which stands out. Splendid, same thing. Glory, same thing. Something that
Yes.
stands out.
Yes.
You with me?
Synonym. Yes.
So if we go by prominent, for example, we will see that prominent will fit every single verse, especially the verse that we are discussing right now. So in this verse that we are discussing right now, the two possessors of justice, they direct towards the prominent. Because let's say you are the person who's hunted when they're not supposed to hunt. You give one of your animals as a requital. Let's say I'm the person judging it. The way I judge is by directing towards what is prominent.
What is
That's how judgment is made. You go, look at this compared to this. You are comparing what is prominent, what is significant. Do you see what I mean?
Right.
Yes.
If nothing is prominent, then there is nothing to judge. To judge, something has to be more prominent than the other.
Right.
Are you with me?
No, say it again, please. It's like guidance, and then
So guidance towards the prominent. They are guiding towards the prominent, or they are directing towards the prominent. So you give them an animal, they direct towards, let's say the animal that you give them, let's say it's young, or it's old, or it's sick.
Okay.
Those that are judging, they will direct towards that which is prominent about it. Do you get it? They would say, oh,
it has
it's young.
Clear indication.
Indication. There you go.
Okay. Yes.
You with me?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
So they would simply direct towards that which indicates prominence that would allow them to judge yay from nay. You with me? And that is a must, by the way. This is not an interpretation of any kind, because the alternative is that we have two possessors of justice and you don't explain what they do. If you don't explain what they do, what signifies them to be two possessors of justice?
Right.
Yes, you are right. The context is there.
The context is always king. Always is the context.
Right.
The moment you translate that as anything else, you have more problems than you resolve, because now you have two men that are called possessors of justice, but then you don't tell us what they do. Instead of telling us what they do, you somehow come up with an offering to a particular place.
Right.
What the hell has that got to do with anything? And then on top of that, when you say offering to a particular place, then you basically turn that place into a place where a stone altar where sacrifices are made, which is what pagans used to do.
Right.
Yes, but let's think over it again. Like
Go for it.
Yes, the Hadaya.
Yeah. Hadyan Baraz al-Kaaba.
So Hidayah, you said like guidance.
Yeah.
And then
reaching or toward.
Yes. So judges.
Yeah. Judge, two possessors of justice. Guiding toward the prominent.
Guiding towards. Okay.
Yeah. Guiding toward the prominent, or directing toward
toward the prominent. Toward, okay.
Yeah. There is no avoiding that, because the alternatives just won't work. Because the alternative, which again, I want people,
you are right.
To consider everything, huh?
Yeah, the Hidayah, it's like 2%. It comes for 2%. I'm just learning the grammar, so I know Hidayah is just for 2%, like tasniya. So
yeah, they are the ones doing the hadiyah.
Yeah, the 2% are doing Hidayah.
Yes.
Right.
That's why they're there.
Hmm.
Do you see it? If they're not
Yes.
doing hidayah, what are they there for?
Yes. Right.
I mean, think about it. In fact, if they're not doing hidayah and we're just talking about offering reaching the Kaaba, then I don't need them. I can do that myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you get it? It becomes pointless. What are they? Drivers? Are they delivery boys? Are they going to take the meat and take it to the? You know what I mean? If they're just going to take the animal and take it to this particular place, they don't need to be just. They don't need to be just for that.
Yeah, the thing was going is incomplete unless you tell the what to do. If you are, like if you're doing something haram, then obviously there should be like the solution there.
There you go.
Yes.
So there's no avoiding this, I'm afraid.
And then you go with that important thing on this ayah, which talk about Siyam.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Still there.
So now that we've understood that, I just want to make sure that we've all understood that.
Yeah.
And for the viewers, I want them to consider both options and reach their own conclusion. I'm not a mufti of any kind.
Okay.
So yes, just so people know, the alternative is simply turning the Kaaba to a place where you take animals to when you hunt when you're not supposed to hunt. That's where you make the place.
Yeah.
Which is not how it's used today.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? So either way, it's not going to help.
Okay. Yes.
Now, to continue, and this is where he removes the idea that Siam has anything to do with fasting. So it says, or, so not and, or an expiation of feeding poor people. So if you can't, so this again removes the idea that Kaaba has anything to do with a particular place. Because it's saying here, if I don't do the two possessors of justice, with the requital and everything, then what I can do is I can feed poor people myself. Look, or an expiation of feeding poor people. See? Right. So I don't need, so Kaaba doesn't need to be this place where you take animals to, because I can feed poor people myself.
Right.
You see that? On top of that, the two possessors of justice, they have to do some judging, because if they're not doing that, then I can feed poor people myself again.
Right.
You see that? So there's no avoiding it. Did you get that? Or feeding poor people. So it's either the Kaaba or an expiation of feeding the poor people, not the two.
Yes, and then after that?
Then this is what removes fasting, because it says or, not and. So you have a choice here. You have a choice here between feeding poor people or equivalent of that in Siam. So imagine you have a choice between feeding poor people, but you choose instead to fast. It's not possible.
Right.
Yes.
Because number one, that would be evil. Because why would you choose to abstain from food and drink rather than feeding someone poor?
Very
good.
Makes
sense of that?
Nah.
Right.
Poor people.
Make sense of that.
Nah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Very good point.
In no way could you possibly.
It can never be in balance, like feeding the poor. Never.
No sane human being is gonna be like, you know what? Instead of feeding you, I'd rather go hungry. That's evil.
That's evil. Yes.
Tell me how that's not evil.
It's very, bad.
How could that possibly
nobody can
be anything but evil?
Yeah.
Yeah, that really does not make any sense in that context.
That completely demolishes the idea that Siam can have anything to do with fasting. Because if we can have anything to do with fasting, then we are accusing God of basically telling us to, rather than feed people, fast from food and drink yourself. Can you imagine God saying that?
So feeding people is like those who can afford, they will
Yeah,
give.
I mean, feed poor people, not necessarily afford. Those who can, it's basically if you don't
The
have.
other thing is that, and how many
No,
many
it does
people?
say plural though. So you feed poor people.
Poor people.
Like
Yeah,
how
so
many?
it's
Like
plural
two?
and not single, but you're right. It doesn't give a number. It's
More than
left to
two?
you.
So three. So what about fasting then? I mean, can be. There's no.
There's no time period for that.
You are asking about fasting, so it's not there.
It's not possible. Guys, think about it. How on earth is it going to be possible in this verse? Feeding poor
So,
people or fasting? How
yeah,
can you have the two?
no,
Like
it's
if you, for example, if I'm a millionaire, I'm an a
You will
miser.
never fast.
No, but that's what I'm saying. You
Yeah.
already answered, but before let me finish the question. I'm a millionaire, right? And I'm a very miser person. I don't want to spend my money.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say to Allah, Allah, give me an option, okay?
Yeah.
Either give the money to the poor people, or fast. So since I'm a miser millionaire, I say I'm not gonna give any money. I'm gonna fast.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And on the flip side, the poor person, let's say I'm very poor and I really can't afford to share the little food that I have. But really and truly, I don't like fasting. I would much rather feed poor people. I just can't afford to. So because I can't afford to, God would then basically be punishing me for being poor by
yes,
saying, you fast. You can't feed no
yes.
poor people,
Another good
you
point.
broke guy.
Another
You
good point.
fast.
Very good point. Yes,
It doesn't work.
it doesn't work.
That's a very good point. I think you have
Hmm.
explained very well, my brother.
So we've looked at
So,
every single verse where you find the word Siam, and
so
it's
here
just
is no, but for for viewers, what the Siam is here like? Is it
Siam is again, it's abstain.
is
Because you've
abstain?
done, yeah, it's you've done wrong, so you need to go
Okay.
back and learn the deen. It's always like that.
Yeah, like a stay back or hold back, like
Yeah,
Oh,
hold back. It's a detention, basically.
oh yeah. Okay.
It's detention. You've messed
And
up.
take the guidance.
Yeah, you
That's
messed up. You clearly didn't get the guidance, so you need to have
mm,
extra time with
mm,
you.
mm.
yeah, we have to look for the whole context before we
Yeah,
apply this. I mean,
and we have to consider. What I do is I consider all possibilities, and then I apply a simple process of elimination. If you don't work, you gotta go. The next one, try it. Doesn't work, gotta go.
right.
Mm.
So we've looked at every single verse. Fasting is not
Mashallah.
going to work.
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
I think you explained very well, brother.
We've
So,
looked at every single verse. Remember that. And
right.
please make it clear to your viewers. There was no explanation, interpretation. We just read.
Yes. You can see you just read.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
you read everything
Mashallah.
according to the whole context.
Yes. We stayed consistent with the Quran.
Mm.
Right.
Very
And
good.
very
Yeah.
good very good explanation,
Reading.
reading
Yeah.
of Quran,
Reading.
trying to
Thank you.
understand.
Reading. The
So,
point is, as long as you are consistent with, there's two things. Remember the theme of the Quran and remember the context that the word is found in. You will
right.
never go astray. It will always be clear as long as you remember those two, because the Quran has one consistent theme. You can't just assume that a word is discussing something that is completely out of the theme of the Quran. And
Mm.
two, you look at the context. As long as you bear those two in mind, you won't. It's the clearest book you've ever read in your life.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, brother.
Subhanallah.
Thank
That's true.
So, in the end, I would always ask our speakers to give a message. What do you think? What is important for our viewers, my brother?
To be honest, what's important, and I was pretty lucky with this, is that you approach the Quran honestly. You don't approach it with any allegiance, nor do you approach it with any particular narrative, and nor do you approach the Quran hell-bent on trying to discredit and reject it, such as the atheists and stuff like that. The point is, you have a message here. A messenger has claimed that this message is from God. The only way to determine that is by studying the actual message. Imagine this. Imagine you were present at that time. This is what I did when I was reading the Quran. Imagine you were present at that time. Imagine the messenger came to you and told you, hey, I'm a messenger of God. How would you determine whether that claim is true or not? Do you see what I mean?
Right.
The people that call themselves Muslims today, they have to undergo the same mental process as the people of that time. Meaning, you have to imagine a human being coming up to you saying, I'm the messenger of God. How do you verify that? The only way to verify that is by investigating the message itself. There is no other way.
Yes.
Unless you can tell me what other way, how else can I verify that sort of a claim?
Right.
No way. Just, reading the scripture, the Quran.
How is there any other way? Like, for example,
no other way.
Some people would say, oh, the Prophet was a trustworthy man. I'm sorry. No matter how trustworthy you are, if you say to me that you are the messenger of God, my back is going to go up and I'm going to be like, hold on. What are you talking about? Because it's a huge claim.
Yes, you're right. Very huge.
It's a huge claim. You don't just say, oh, because someone is trustworthy, they can make such a humongous claim. Really? You mean to tell me someone that's trustworthy has not all of a sudden become a liar? Or do you mean to tell me that someone who is a liar has never told any truth? So you don't just judge the individual, you judge the claim.
Right.
Very good point.
Yeah, very good. I think it's very important for everybody to ponder on Quran. I always say
everyone's doing, and yeah, I just remembered actually. This is, I really want people to understand what my goal is, especially my Sunni brothers and the Shias. My goal is not to attack the Sunnah, nor to attack the Hadith. As a matter of fact, I haven't got anything negative to say about it, nor positive. I'm indifferent to it. My issue is that there has been attacks against the Quran that is undeserved. There are 3 different kinds of enemies these days against they believe it's against the Quran. Namely, you have people who call themselves anti-Muslim, and yet they cannot cite a single verse to explain why they reject the Quran.
that is true.
So that is one group of issues of people that are attacking the Quran. The other group of people are the people who are referred to as the Islamophobes. The Islamophobes are not attacking the Quran. Their issues is with the Hadiths.
Yes.
And if they think they have an issue with the Quran, it's not because of the Quran, but it's because of the translation that is inspired by Hadiths.
Yes, and how the Muslims are portraying them.
And how the Muslims are portraying them. Yeah, the third one. Yeah, so the second one was the Islamophobia. And Islamophobia is caused by these ideas, which is hadith ideas, really. And the third one, which people are tap dancing around, but I'm not tap dancing around it, because people have to make this distinction between the Quran and these hadiths. They have to. And the third one is basically extremists. Extremists are not because of the Quran. It's because of hadiths. How would an extremist from the Quran look like? It would be an extremely good human being.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
So even these extremists, their ideas are not from the Quran.
Yeah.
It's from the hadiths and whatever.
That is true.
So there are three particular enemies who are basically disparaging the Quran for not because of the Quran, but because of the hadiths. And really and truly, I could almost say it's not their fault either, because let's be frank, it's the Sunnis that have allowed them to do this, because the Sunnis have convinced the world that the Quran and the hadiths are interchangeable. It is one of the same thing. So now what we have is we have people burning the Quran, literally burning the Quran, but not because of what the Quran says, but because of what the hadith says. As a matter of fact, I guarantee no one can tell me, even if they're not a Muslim, there is nothing in the Quran anyone can have a problem with, let alone causing you to burn it.
That is true.
That's true.
So what I need my Sunni brethren to understand is that they have enough on their table. They have enough people constantly attacking them and questioning their assertions and etc. I'm not going to join that bandwagon. The only thing I ask of them to do is not to throw the Quran under the bus. Go defend your hadiths. But you don't need to do that in the expense of throwing the Quran under the bus. That's my issue.
It's a very good point. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Brother Maverick. Thanks for your time today, coming to our show. And in the end, again, viewers, please ponder on Quran. Take care of yourself, your family, your neighbors. Please, again, try to understand and learn Quran every single day. Take care, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time.
Peace, everyone.
Peace. Okay.